Alright. Monday, start of a new week, and it's the first session of the day, so I'm finally back in the groove of doing AM and PM sessions. Hopefully the background noise isn't too bad. These microphones are meant to be good, but I swear they've been absolute shit lately. I don't know what's going on, whether they're damaged or what, because I've got the windsock on it. I've got it on the lowest volume setting, so it hopefully picks up less of the background noise. But still, I don't know. If anybody knows the correct settings in the gym for the Rode Wireless 2, the Rode Wireless Go 2, please comment down in the comment section below and let me know. Currently I've got it set on the lowest volume setting. You got 3 different levels or 3 different tiers. So the lowest volume setting is what I've got it set to. Then I've just got the windsock on, so let me know if I'm doing something wrong, guys. Anyway, back into the AM PM sessions. And I'll be doing this instead of the free motion fly, just because it's currently taken. And I do prefer the free motion fly. I think I get a better connection, better stimulus to the chest, but it's just not free, so I don't want to wait for it. I've still got to come back and do a second session later today, and it's already 2 p.m. I'm doing my first session of the day very late, guys. Ideally, I would have done this around 10:30, 11 o'clock, which will be my goal next time, my goal tomorrow. So yeah, chest on the menu right now, and side delts, biceps and calves in the evening. Whether I do that here or at the home gym in the building that I'm staying in, it's yet to be decided. However, because I have to do calves, I'll probably come back here, and it'll also just mean I'll get a few extra steps in for the day too, help with digestion, that sort of thing. It's still in the deficit, still in the cut. It's going well. I believe this is week 4, I want to say, and I'm down quite a bit. I started at 282 pounds, and I'm about 268 pounds now, I believe. So dropped a decent amount. Probably do it for another week or 2, and then after that what I'll do is I'll just transition back into a growing phase. It looks like currently the plan is my fiance and I will be heading back to Australia in late July, early August, around that time, and we'll be there for a few months. I've got a few people competing in season C. I hate how Australia has season A, B and C. They should just have bodybuilding shows running throughout the entire year, just like every other country, but they have to be different, just like everything. Australia always has to be different, I don't know why. Anyway, my old man rant is over. I'm going back to Australia basically for a few months. I'll be able to see my clients in person, athletes who are competing, which is awesome, and get in a couple of, I guess, catch-ups with a few friends that I haven't seen for pretty much the past year. And then it'll be either back to here or straight to America. But the plan is long-term, go to America. It's better for bodybuilding. However, we might come back here in I used to say the intermediate period between when we get to America and when we leave here. So, yeah. But at least a solid few months in Australia, that's for sure. Anyway, deficit's going well, but I'm keen to start growing again. Hunger's fine, I'm not hungry. I rarely get hungry in a deficit. The only time I'll get hungry, honestly, is in the last 4 weeks of contest prep. My body's pretty robust, and I've just taught myself to not be hungry when dieting. I think a lot of it is psychological, and a lot of people just need to harden the fuck up. It's really not that hard. There's kids in Africa starving for crying out loud, and you're choosing to compete in a bodybuilding show, so don't you dare whinge about being hungry. It's all self-inflicted at the end of the day. Anyway, warm-up set, and then 3 working sets. good news. The cable fly machine, the free motion one, is vacant now. Which means I can do this. I just did my warm-up on the pec deck fly instead, so I don't need to do a warm-up on this really. I mean, I probably could just to familiarise myself with this movement because it is a little bit different in how it loads the pecs. But I won't. I'll just jump straight to the working weight. It's pretty hard to not feel warm in this kind of weather. Hang on a minute. I think the camera's straight. There we are, that's better. Oh. Alright. Best working set now. So it looks like I managed to match my reps from last week. So I just want to make sure the audio is connected. It's been playing up. I think I've narrowed down what the issue with the audio is too, by the way, guys. Because after that set, that warm-up set I did in the cable fly, I was speaking to another gym member, and he said that could be the actual socket, the port that the aux cable plugs into for the mic receiver, that is. So if the port in the camera is a little bit loose, or if the aux input on the actual aux cable of the microphone receiver is a bit damaged and isn't kind of getting as strong of a connection, then that could be the reason for the crackling and the poor quality audio. So I'm going to have to trial a different aux cable, and if that doesn't fix it, take my camera in again to the repair shop and get the audio port replaced, which is frustrating, but hey, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. And I mean, ultimately it's cheaper than getting a new camera, and after buying flights back to Australia, yeah, I need to save some money. Alright, so I matched the reps on that first set to what I got last week on the first set. However, I didn't have this added range of motion from this foam pad between me and the bench, so this is technically a PB. Bit of a cramp feeling in my left pec. I need to be careful, play it safe, because I've torn both pecs in the past, so they're definitely more susceptible to re-tearing in my opinion. Once you've torn a muscle, or once you've done any sort of injury to any kind of joint or sustained any kind of injury, I should say, you just have a higher proclivity or likelihood of re-injuring that compared to somebody who's never injured their body before, because obviously a healed injury is still a structural weakness, similar to how if there's a fracture point in a building that's repaired, it's still technically going to be weaker than a building that has no fractures or anything like that. So you need to just be a little bit more mindful and strategic with your training once you have had an injury. But I don't see it as a setback. If anything, I see injuries as a bit of a blessing. Or at least I try to choose to see it that way. Because if you choose to see everything as an obstacle or a setback, then you're taking a pessimistic mindset, pessimistic view and perspective on things. You're never going to ultimately be able to reach your full potential if you do that. So take more of a glass is half full rather than glass is half empty mindset towards injuries and little, I suppose, obstacles, so to speak. And see the positives in them, not just the negatives. Because, heck, sure there are negatives, although a lot of the time, almost always, there is a positive to be drawn from it as well. The positive from injuries is it makes you rethink your approach to things and change your mindset, be more vigilant, which is ultimately going to make you better at whatever you're doing, whatever exercise it is that you're doing. So see it as a positive, not a negative, even though there is a negative component to it. I'm thirsty today, I tell you that. It's really hot today. I can guarantee this is going to be finished by the time I get through all 3 chest exercises. Set number 3. Probably could have pushed out a couple more reps, but again, like I said, I started to feel that cramping feeling set in a bit earlier in that set, and I know personally from experience when you push beyond that point where the muscle is starting to cramp, you're in injury territory. So it's better to just call it while you're ahead. Alright. Whoa. Clearly, I've swallowed a bit of air since I started my session. So I've got 2 pressing movements now, and then that's it. Then back, obviously, to my second session of the day. I'm glad, let's just say this, I'm glad that that was not on camera. I just spent a solid 5 minutes after my warm-up set on this, searching for a second 25-pound plate, because I'm doing 245s and a 25 instead of 345s this week. I just feel like I'm loading the chest obviously when I do it heavier, but I just don't quite feel the same connection with my chest, so I'm basically dropping it back a little bit, dropping it back about 20 pound aside. And just focus on better quality reps, slower tempo, pause in the stretch, pause at the peak contraction, that sort of thing. Although what I was saying is I'm glad that that wasn't on camera, because I literally spent I spent 5 minutes looking for a 25-pound plate for the other side, only to realise that I'd walked past one about several times while I was scouring the gym. So that was damn embarrassing. And I can guarantee people would have seen it in the gym. But then again, maybe they didn't, because usually people are too preoccupied with themselves in the gym to notice or even acknowledge what other people are doing. Yeah, first working set. I'll keep it at this weight for all 3 sets today, just so I can get better quality reps. I think it's more important. Right, now something that I think I should touch on is chest exercise selection. And what I mean by that is, like, if your goal is to develop your upper or lower chest, should the exercise choice change much, or if at all? Honestly, it does heavily depend on you as an individual and how many exercises you're doing for that matter per session, or how many exercises you're doing in a week for your chest itself. I mean, variety is the spice of life, and I do think that having a little bit more variety in terms of exercise selection is beneficial. Like, if you can load a muscle from more than one angle, it's going to be more effective than just loading a muscle repeatedly from that same one angle. Although if we look at the literature and what the data shows, it's pretty concrete in that incline presses tend to stimulate the upper pec, so obviously a lot better than a flat press does, but also the lower pec, or I should say the sternocostal fibers of the pec, because you've got the clavicular fibers predominantly and the sternocostal fibers, and technically you've got these fibers below the sternocostal region that are still part of the pec that I guess kind of edge on the side of being abdominal muscles. But to target the lower pec, or what people consider to be the lower pec, which is the sternocostal fibers, they found that incline presses, a low, moderate incline, is just as effective at targeting those as a flat, but you get the added benefit of more stimulus to the actual upper pec fibers or the clavicular fibers. So I think if you're limited in exercise choices, if you're only doing, say, one exercise for chest in a session, you're better off opting for a incline press if you're going to be going for a press of any sort, for that matter. Although if you have two chest exercises in each session, say 2 times a week at least, then I'd say having one of those being a flat press is probably beneficial and advantageous. So again, it really depends on the individual. It's context specific, but that's the way I view it. And I mean, I've gotten results, all my clients have gotten results using that approach. So clearly it's not just supported by the scientific literature, but also in practical application. So before I do the last set of this incline press, I figured I'd just touch on training frequency. Now, when it comes to muscle growth, is training frequency important? Now, the reason why I kind of wanted to cover this is it's pretty common for people to run a push-pull leg split or an upper-lower split these days, where you hit a muscle group twice a week. Although, is that really superior to the traditional bro split where you hit everything once a week? If you look at the scientific literature, there isn't really a significant difference in the hypertrophic outcome of training a muscle group once a week versus twice a week, so long as total weekly training volume is accounted for. So if you're training a muscle group once a week with 16 working sets versus twice a week with 8 working sets per session, the muscle growth outcome is going to be relatively similar. But the big difference, or the big advantage of high frequency training and where it comes into play, is fatigue mitigation and avoiding junk volume. So if you do, say, 16 working sets for a muscle group in a single session, after the first several sets, you're probably going to run into a lot of junk volume, a lot of excess fatigue that you could otherwise avoid if you were to just split your total weekly training volume up over 2 training sessions a week for a given body part. So I think ultimately it's better to train a muscle group more frequently, but there's also a point of diminishing returns there. Just because twice a week is better than once a week doesn't necessarily mean 3 times a week or 4 times a week is better than twice a week. You've got to find that happy medium where you're recovering effectively, not just your muscle tissue, but also your connective tissue, your joints, because they're more susceptible to I suppose, injury and damage due to the fact that there's less blood flow to those tissues as opposed to your muscle tissues. So keep that in mind, but hopefully that helps you kind of decide on how frequently or how infrequently to train a muscle group. Okay, final exercise of the session. First session, at least. Still got one more to go later tonight. Ideally, I'd like to have these sessions obviously spaced further apart. That's a given, I think. However, beggars can't be choosers, and I had a bit of a more eventful morning than I expected to. And so I've just got to improvise and adapt. So I've only got 2 sets on this because, again, like I said, if you're doing 2 exercises, an incline press and flat press, the incline press is already contributing quite a bit to lower pec or sternocostal fiber hypertrophy, so you don't need to do an excessive amount of lower chest focus pressing or decline pressing and flat pressing. Still doing a little bit is beneficial, but if you're already doing primary pressing movement, do 1/2 to 2/3 the volume on that second pressing movement as you did on the main one. Probably had 1 or 2 more in the tank, but again, chest is just feeling a little bit crampy today, a little bit suspicious, so I'll heat on the side of caution more than pushing at this stage. I think I'm just a little bit, not dehydrated, but not hydrated enough. So next chest session later in the week, I'll definitely make sure I come back fully hydrated, ready to go. I'm also on a deficit too, which I need to keep in mind. Performance, it's not going to necessarily decline, but it's not going to really progress that much. Be progressing at a slower pace than usual. So yeah, 1 more of these though, and then it's off home, shower, eat, a little bit of work, and then back for session number 2, or just go downstairs and do it there. I think I find easy with hammer strength presses to get into it. Start at the top here and kind of like slide down the seat as you start pressing. So like that. All done. Time to head home, shower, eat, and then back to session number dos. Is it dos? Yeah, uno, dos, yeah. I don't know Spanish. It's a guess. Now I figure just in case if I do my second session at home, I should probably do my calf raises while I'm here because there ain't anything to do calf raises on in the home gym. So I believe I was up to 325 pound last week. Just more low, moderate reps than I usually do. 3 sets. Now, something I want to touch on before I wrap this up and head home is rep ranges. Now, is there a best rep range for muscle growth? 6 to 10, 8 to 12, 15 to 20, for example? The answer is no, really. At the end of the day, as long as you're performing between 5 and 30 repetitions, you're going to see some sort of hypertrophic response, provided that you're training close enough to failure, that is. Now, the thing is, the two biggest needle movers or determining factors as to which rep range within that 5 to 30 range of repetitions that you will choose for a given exercise is going to be the actual exercise itself and the muscle fiber composition, or the ratio of fast and slow twitch muscle fibers in that muscle group that you're targeting. So if your chest is fast twitch dominant, then using more low, moderate rep range is going to be more advantageous for eliciting a hypertrophic response. Whereas if they are more slow twitch dominant, then using slightly more moderate, higher rep ranges might be a little bit more ideal. Doesn't mean that there's no benefit or utility using lower rep range. It's just you should probably lean more towards using more moderate, high rep ranges if you fall into that category of having a higher slow twitch dominant muscle group. So how do you determine that, really? There isn't any real kind of definitive way of determining that unless if you just go through a process of trial and error. Train a given muscle group, say chest for example, for 2 or 3 consecutive training blocks using predominantly lower, moderate rep ranges. See the hypertrophic outcome of that. Then repeat the process with more moderate, high rep ranges while keeping all other variables the same, identical. Calorie surplus size, total weekly training volume for that muscle group in terms of total weekly sets, or however you calculate total weekly training volume, whether you do it that way or do it via calculating reps times sets times weight. And then see and compare the two outcomes. Whichever one is more, I suppose, beneficial, whichever one's superior, that's likely going to give you an indicator as to what the muscle fiber composition is like in that muscle group for you as an individual, because it will vary from person to person. Second to that is the actual exercise choice itself. If you're doing a lateral raise or a tricep press down, you're not going to use the same rep ranges on those movements as you would on, say, a flat dumbbell press or a deadlift. That would just be a bit idiotic, to be honest. So it's exercise specific and then also muscle fiber composition specific. Like I said, hopefully that helps. Okay, so it would appear that I did in fact decide to come back to the gym to do my second session. I'll tell you that it wasn't easy. I was contemplating doing it in my building on level M. There's like a little bit of a setup down there. It was enough to do arms, don't get me wrong, but the equipment is better here. So I mean, I weighed up the pros and the cons, and I said to myself, you know what, I need to not be a lazy bitch and just walk to the gym. It's 5 to 10 minutes walk. It means I have access to better quality equipment, so why would I settle for a subpar training session in the home gym when I could literally just walk 5-10 minutes to this mecca? So that's what I did. It's only a quick session anyway, 2 bicep exercises, 1 side delt exercise, so realistically I shouldn't be in here for long. I did 1 warm-up set, although I've got a little bit of radiating forearm pain in my left forearm, so it's making things a little bit difficult. And my bicep definitely isn't the limiting factor when I'm doing these single arm creature curls, particularly on that left side, so I'm going to have to get it sorted out as soon as possible. I think it's likely due to the fact that I sleep on my left side the majority of the night. I move around a bit, but more often than not I tend to wake up on my left side, or I definitely go to sleep on my left side, although sometimes in the middle of the night I might get up and I'm on my right side, but more often than not I'm on my left side. So I'd assume it's probably just a pinched nerve from sleeping in an awkward position. Because I mean, when you're as heavy as I am, sleeping in the wrong position can definitely jack you up and really make things feel uncomfortable. So I'll just kind of play it carefully today. I'll go the same way as last week, although I'm not setting the expectation of hitting a PB. I'm just going to make sure I go through the motion, get a good contraction at the top, good stretch at the bottom, and see how things feel after the first set. Yeah, no PBs tonight. Still getting some stimulus though, which will prevent any muscular atrophy, which is the main thing I'm focusing on anyway in this deficit, so it's alright. As long as I'm matching or getting close to what I hit in the previous week, and as long as I can maintain that at the bare minimum, I'm happy. 2 more sets of this for 3 sets in total each side. Then it's on to Bayesian curls. I've got 2 my rep match sets on that. And you can kind of pretty much equate a my rep match set, the equivalent in terms of effective reps, to say 2 straight sets. So 2 my rep match sets is pretty much the equivalent of 4 straight sets. So 3 on this, 2 sets on the my rep match, the Bayesian curls or facing away cable curls, whatever you want to call them. And finishing off with side delts, so I've got 3 my rep match sets on side delts. So that should be good. It's been a pretty exhausting day, I'll tell you that. Between waking up a little bit late, just being behind the 8 ball the entire day, getting that first session of the day done a lot later than I normally would, and then rolling into some work once I got home, and doing some cleaning, some laundry, that sort of stuff. I feel a little bit zapped, I'll be honest. And I think it's also the antibiotics still kicking my ass from, of course, the lip surgery I got last Wednesday. So I had to go on a 5-day course of antibiotics, which I wrapped up this morning. So they always leave you feeling a little bit lethargic and zapped of energy. So it doesn't surprise me the fact that I feel this way tonight. Anyway, we persist and push on. Now it might look like I'm pushing to failure, mechanical failure on this left side, although just keep in mind, because it does feel pretty shite, even if I go to what is perceivably failure on this side, because I'm not able to maximize my actual potential for output on it, it's probably more like a true 1 or 2 reps in reserve. So if I go to failure on this arm and match the reps on this arm, at least I'm still getting decent stimulus. Now, although unilateral exercises take twice as long to do, in the sense that to do one working set you have to perform it twice, one on each side, the caveat is you don't have to rest as long between each set, because the arm that you train first is already getting a rest when you're doing the second arm. So technically, like, you don't really lose any time by doing single arm movements. It's just, I suppose, mentally more burdening than anything. So say, for example, you're aiming to rest approximately 2 minutes or thereabout between sets on curls. If you're doing single arm curls, you might only have to rest, say, 70 or 80 to 90 seconds, because you're already getting that 30, 45 second head start once you start performing the set for the second side or the second arm or leg or whatever you're training. On evasion curls, well, actually, it's like Tweedledee and Tweedledum using machines, so I might have to do laterals and then come back to it, which is, in my opinion, not ideal, although it could be more ideal depending on how you look at things. Me personally, I think it's less ideal. Somebody out there, some idiot's going to argue, well, you're having more rest between bicep exercises, so you'll perform better. So potentially, but also you're going to be a little bit more mentally tuned out by the time you get to it, because you've already done another exercise between it. And you're going to accumulate a little bit of fatigue from that, which could negatively impact or feed over to bicep curls. Not local fatigue, but like systemic fatigue. We'll see how things go. I'm definitely not waiting for that machine though. They're having a good chat between sets, so I'll go to the laterals. Okay. There we go. Much better. Technique was a little bit sloppy on that. I'll probably clean it up a little bit. 17 reps. There's no way I hit a 2 or 3 rep PB from last week. So I must have been a little bit sloppier with my cadence and tempo. There's something you can do if you're somebody who struggles feeling side delts in a lateral raise machine. I don't do it because I don't have any issues, although if you do, you can kind of keep your arms straight like this and raise up like that. Personally, it's not necessary for me, though I do know some people love doing it and it can be a deal breaker, or it can be a game changer, I should say, not a deal breaker. It'll be the difference between them feeling the side delts and not feeling the side delts. Because I don't have an issue though, I don't bother with it. And frankly, with this machine, this particular lateral raise, the place that the plate stack is kind of gets in the way of your arm if you do it with your arms fully extended. However, if you have like a hammer strength lateral raise machine or a different brand, like a awesome strength maker, decent seated one too, then you'll likely get away with doing it on those without any obstructions in the way.
For me like this, so I will right hook 80% power. Your hand will break completely. Like this.
Where do you want to go? No, what I might do. Go to say. Feeling good.
Your shoes are like really small. What size is that? Half my size. Hey, wrinkles. Exercise wrinkles. Okay, you do. Upper body and heart.